Howdy, my name is Shane Christensen, and I'm going to be doing a case report on Anton Chigurh, the villain and antagonist from No Country for Old Men, a film from 2007. So, first of all, starting with Anton Chigurh, not much is really known about his past. In fact, nothing is known about his past. All that we know is that he was hired by a cartel to recover a lost briefcase holding $2 million, recovered by a random guy in the rural environment outside of El Paso, Texas. And this is set in the 1980s. So it's already a very masculine normed society. However, Anton sets apart from this, especially being very polarizing in this sense. He's very stoic, very masculine in how he carries himself, but he also has very little regard for other people, and that is very very glaring when watching the movie. He's a crazed killer who seemingly does whatever he wants whenever he wants. So I'm just going to touch back on this cultural identity for another second here, because this is important to the story to recognize that this is a very different time period than now. Not only is this a very rural area of the country, being on the border of Mexico, but you have to think that in the 1980s there was also, even in bigger cities, not very adequate mental health resources in general. And so this definitely would have caused a measurable impact on what help Anton Chigurh could have had growing up, that maybe he was not available to get in his time or where he was. So now let's look at the overview of the diagnosis, which would be the antisocial personality disorder. So this is defined by the American Psychiatric Association and by outside researchers who I have included all my citations at the reference page in the end of this presentation. But it is defined as having a lack of empathy, aggression, a disregard for others, and using calculated deceitfulness, just to name a few. And these are all the big ones that he absolutely qualifies. I mean, throughout the movie, he does terrible things, very aggressive. He has no regard for other people, and he is very deceitful in a lot of the methods that he uses to achieve what he wants to do without any empathy observed at all. So first of all, let's talk about this symptom of having no regard, seemingly, for health or safety of others. So this scene right here shows him accidentally finding people in the crossfire of his search for the man with the cartel's case of money, right? So he's looking through a hotel where he has a tracker on the case, again showing that he is calculated and deceitful, because earlier in the movie he's able to track the case, but I can't get into that too much. But he when looking through this hotel where he believes the case to be, he accidentally stumbles upon a room full of people that are just minding their own business, and instead of doing anything to try and cover his tracks or just leave, he just murders everyone because it's seemingly more convenient for him, so that then he can just get on to the next room already and keep searching, clearly showing no regard for other people in any capacity at all, and a very ruthless scene, to say the least. And now another big, huge marker of antisocial personality disorder is his complete lack of remorse. He, throughout the entire movie, is just ruthless and merciless to all of the people who are unlucky enough to cross his path. In this scene, this is another example of a time that he's being unremorseful. And one common thing that was seen throughout the movie was that some of his victims would be completely unimpactful to his overall goal of recovering this suitcase. However, he seemingly killed for sport sometimes, but he had his own moral code, and this is another example of him abiding by his moral code, being that he would flip a coin and tell his victim to call the coin. And if they called it wrong, he would shoot and kill them. But to him, this was nothing to be remorseful about. This wasn't even him that was committing the murder. It was completely chance, which is ironic enough because of how ruthless he is without even employing chance as a coping mechanism for murder. But it is just another example of his complete and utter lack of remorse as a character. And again, these qualities being exemplary of antisocial personality disorder, many studies that I've cited at the reference page at the end. So there's one characteristic that he has weak evidence for, and that would be impulsivity. He is not impulsive in the movie. He's very calculated and very ruthless. However, I believe that there is enough evidence to strongly support the other symptoms that still would classify him as having antisocial personality disorder. Now, treatment. I have a slide on here with a roadblock because I want to acknowledge that treatment at this time in this part of the country was very difficult to come by for mental health. So that would have been a very difficult challenge, especially with such a severe mental disease that he would have had to overcome first if he wanted to seek treatment. Now, past that, I was looking into CBT as a treatment for people suffering from the same disease. However, I found a study by Davidson et al. From 2008 that saw that there was actually no benefit recorded between CBT therapies being used on violent antisocial personality disorder patients at all. So this is a very highly debated topic of how to treat this mental disorder. This would be on a case-by-case basis, especially with someone with as severe a form of the disease as him. And speaking of which, let's talk about the accuracy of how it's portrayed in the movie. So in real life, this is definitely a disease that has a strong stigma of people being evil or just malicious or in a sense demonic even, if you want to go that far. And it's definitely recognized across all cultures. However, the movie shows a very exaggerated form of this. And while it does show some very realistic qualities, like his lack of regard for other people and other characteristics of the medical classification of the disease, he's also very exaggerated and is almost like a godlike figure with how mystic he is and how he's unable to be killed throughout the movie. So that would be an exaggeration compared to real life. And here are the references that I used to get all of my information and that I used to support all of my claims. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.